have you, and we appreciate you taking the time out of your busy schedules tonight. As Michael mentioned, my name is Joshua Meyer, Executive Director of Online Enrollment Management, and I am honored to be here with you tonight. So, as we talk about advancing your career and discovering your calling, you may be asking yourself, why are you here? This is a question with double meaning. One way to think about it is, why are you here tonight? One thing is certain. If you're here, it means that you care about your current or your future work, and you want to do something to grow and develop. Concordia University cares about people and the quality of their work because we believe that work is an amazing opportunity to benefit other people. We can also think of the question in another way. Why are you here? As in, here on this planet. Now, this one may sound, a little bit heavy or philosophical, but the answer to this question really makes a huge difference in how we live and how we feel about our life and our work. There is also a third way of thinking about it, why you are here. In other words, out of all the different things that you could be doing tonight, maybe watching the March Madness, out of all the different higher education institutions available to you, and there are a lot of great schools out there, you've actually chosen to come here tonight to Concordia, University of Wisconsin and Ann Arbor. It's interesting, the name Concordia comes from Latin, and it literally means with one heart or hearts together. Those of us who work in the Concordia community share certain common value and beliefs, and those show up in everything we do, from recruiting new students to teaching classes to advising students. I hope that you have already found that we are a warm and welcoming community and that we are genuinely interested in partnering with people like you as you aspire to advance your career and discover your calling. So with that in mind, I'd like to take the next 20 minutes to share a few tips about what it takes to do work that is meaningful and also at the same time personally rewarding. These tips very much represent the Concordia way. Tip number 1, find out what you're good at, what you love to do. Then figure out how you can develop those gifts and your abilities. Then find a place of work where you can actually utilize those gifts and abilities. I realize that sometimes, it's just a matter of finding a good paying job, and that is great. However, when you find a job that actually fits with your gifts and your talents and your abilities, that can be something amazing for everyone around you. I mean, think about it. You're more inspired, you're energized, the people you work with, your colleagues, they see that, your clients and customers benefit from it immensely. Yet, even if you're good at something or have a passion, lifelong learning is key to success. It isn't just about learning a set of skills and doing the same thing for 10, 20, or 30 years. Doing work with excellence involves constantly learning from successes and learning from failures, listening and observing at work, and using all that to get better at what you do. People who are great at what they do almost always are good learners. They want to grow and learn continually, and they're always on the lookout for things that can help them improve. Tip number 2, come up with a compelling why for your work. So whether you're flipping burgers or doing brain surgery, write out 2 to 4 sentences stating why what you do matters. There's something about actually not just thinking about it, but actually writing it out and seeing it there, helping you process even more about what it takes to make a difference in the world and changing lives of people. At Concordia, we sometimes think of this in terms of loving your neighbor, asking how can you love your neighbor through your work. Every job worth doing has a compelling why behind it. In a famous talk and book by Simon Sinek, he found the following to be consistently true about great companies. He calls it the golden circle. Notice that the central question in these organizations is not what we do or even how we do it. It is why we do it. They let a compelling why drive everything they do. That same thing is true for many high-impact difference makers. Tip number 3, invest in the art and science of what you do. Look at the people who are the best in the world at what they do. Think about some famous people, Steve Jobs, Bill Gates, for example. What do they have in common? Yes, they were probably born with some gifts and abilities, but that really is never enough. Psychologists who study human performance discovered long ago that people get better, even expert, by what they call deliberate practice. This is the approach needed to really thrive in your work. To be a student of what it takes to become really good, you got to practice it. Reflect on how you're doing and adjust. Read books. If you have a long commute or downtime, maybe some books on CD. Take advantage of that time and really educating yourself further. Take some classes. Ask people to give you feedback on your work so that you can get better. Do this before your boss asks you or someone requires it at work. Take the initiative. After all, if you think of your work as ultimately about loving your neighbor, then why not become as good as possible at it? A great side result is that people at work will notice this. These self-starters are the people who often get noticed when there are openings in new leadership positions at work. Tip number 4, build your learning network. A personal learning network consists of all the people and sources that you use to learn something. When you want or need to learn something new, where do you usually go? What are your go-to sources? This might include people at work, at home, within your community, but in the digital age, it can include people and groups around the world. Many high performers at work are connecting with other like-minded people around the world through online tools. Example, us this evening. This allows them to get tips, advice, and even get and give some encouragement in times of need. This might require doing some work to figure out the best people to find and places to go, but it is well worth the time. In fact, if you study the history of many great authors, innovators, and inventors, you will discover that they often had a strong network of like-minded people who challenged, encouraged, and even sharpened one another. As Proverbs 27:17 states, as iron sharpens iron, so does one person sharpen another. Tip number 5, find a mentor. When people have studied the most successful individuals around the world, there is one thing that almost all of them have in common. They had a mentor. This is a person with whom they could talk, get advice, and someone who was also willing to show a little tough love. Sharing love, but also giving that constructive feedback. A mentor should be a person who has done or is even doing what you aspire to do one day, and they're willing to help you get there. Don't be afraid of searching around for people who are really good at what they do and asking them if you could go out and get some lunch with them or grab a coffee, just to pick their brain and really understand how they've gotten through that path of where they are today. Tip number 6, stand up for your convictions. A wise person once said, "We learn too late that our convictions matter." So ask yourself this question. What are your most deeply held beliefs and values? Are you living them out in the workplace? It is incredibly difficult to feel good about your work if your job or your boss is requiring you to do and be things that don't align with your values. On the other hand, if you find ways to stand up for what you believe at work, or if you find organizations that match your beliefs and values, work can be wonderfully rewarding. And I have to tell you, being here at Concordia University, Wisconsin, and Ann Arbor. It is personally rewarding for me, with my convictions and my values aligning with our Christian base and Lutheran base. So it is possible to have that opportunity in matching with that rewarding job and career. Tip number 7, commit yourself to being great at execution and doing things well. You know, it is great to be an idea person. Great ideas lead to some amazing things in the world. You know, however, great ideas never change the world on their own. That requires great execution. Taking the ideas, coming up with a plan, acting on that plan, following through, and seeing it to completion. You know, that really is the difference between a dreamer and a difference maker, or what we call a rainmaker. One thinks about it, the other thinks about it, but gets it done. Tip number 8, admit and learn from your mistakes. You know, it's so true. We all make mistakes. In fact, there's only one person that I know who lived a perfect life, and that person certainly is not in this room, at least not physically. As a result, you know, it becomes important for us to have the humility to admit our mistakes. The great thing is that when we recognize our mistakes, we have a chance to learn from them. That is why some people say that failure is the back door to success. Through failures, we can reflect and learn from what happened. We can find new ways to do things differently the next time. I think of Thomas Edison, for example. I know it took him well over 1,000 unsuccessful attempts to finally get that incandescent light bulb to really work. And I'm sure each time, a little bit of frustration, but every time learning not to do that the next time and just evolving to something better and bigger. Tip number 9, don't doubt your worth. Your worth is not connected to your job. Employed, unemployed, underemployed, frustrated at work, delighted at work, none of those define you. At Concordia, we believe that everyone is a unique child of God, full of potential. Your worth is not determined by what you do or you do not accomplish. You know, that comes from God and His gift of Jesus. Once you know and believe that, life is wonderfully freeing. You don't have to work to prove your worth. You do it to help and to benefit others. You actually work to love your neighbor because you recognize and honor the worth in all the people around you, whether it is the customer, the boss, or the board member. And I'm reminded of Joel Osteen, one of the positive ministers out there who speaks regularly of the power of I am. You know, just knowing that we are all a masterpiece, God's unique creation, we're one of a kind. And even on a daily basis in the morning, just starting your day with saying the power of I am successful, I am unique, I am loved, I am a masterpiece, I can do anything I put my mind to. When you speak that to yourself over and over and over again, you're actually planting those seeds in your life, and those seeds will turn into something amazing for you. So having that confidence in your ability and knowing that you are God's special creation, again, don't doubt your worth. You are a masterpiece. You are one of a kind. The Lord has given you a specific set of skills and unique abilities that only you have and are meant to fulfill a very special place in this world, in your community, and in your job. Tip number 10, consider Concordia as a partner. How can we at Concordia help you? Well, our mission states that we, as Concordia, are a Lutheran higher education community committed to helping students develop in mind, body, and spirit for service to Christ in the church and in the world. As a Christian university, we believe that you matter and your work matters. We believe that you have many callings in your life. The calling of being a mother or a father, a son or a daughter, a husband or a wife, a citizen, and you have the calling of your work. We are interested in partnering with you to help you live out your current callings while also preparing for future ones. We have a variety of programs, both undergraduate and graduate programs, as well as certificate programs that are intended to help you achieve your goals and to live out your callings. If you would like to partner with us on your education, we invite you to stick around after the formal programming, and we will have some individuals who would be delighted to speak with you, and we will provide you with our toll-free phone number. You can actually call one of our admissions counselors, and they'll be standing by to speak with you. So at this point, we're going to take a brief intermission, about 2 minutes, and the next step is for us to have the panel. So again, thank you all for being here, and we will talk to you soon.
All right, okay. So this is Michael Sapiro, Executive Director of Digital Marketing here at Concordia, and thank you for joining us for the next part of our webinar. This is the panel discussion. So, just piggybacking off of what Josh was saying, we're going to explore a little bit more about careers and how we conceive of them and how we find meaning in them. And we've got a great panel of people here to discuss that with. So why don't we go and start off kind of introducing who we are. So just say we've got a mixture of students and we've got a mixture of faculty. So say your name, student or faculty, what you teach or study, and then just a little bit of background about yourself. What your professional journey has kind of been so far. So let's start over here.
I'm Eric Hollander. I work as an adjunct faculty in the School of Business for Concordia. I've been primarily in healthcare for the last decade with a focus in oncology. Have held several different roles, working in a private physician group, small practice, to a large national nonprofit healthcare organization, to now a large nonprofit health system here in the state of Wisconsin, in various capacities, from medical records a decade ago to a billing department up to some leadership roles, leaving as a director and currently working in a leadership role within the cancer program with Aurora Healthcare. So we'll leave it at that.
My name is Phil Salter. I am a after-school coordinator or manager for the Boys and Girls Club here in Milwaukee. I started out always working in nonprofits, and through companies and area neighborhoods, I've continued to work for nonprofits, and I'm a current student in this Concordia program, taking over organizational leadership and administration, and hoping to use it to further my career.
Dr. David Forrest, retired dean of the School of Business Administration. I've been at Concordia now for 20 years. The last 6 as the dean. I left full-time employment with the university back in December. Still an adjunct faculty for person teaching corporate finance at MBA 830, and full of other classes here and there. And currently I'm managing 5 businesses that are under my personal label force and brand.
My name is Anderson Lolan. I am a recent graduate from Concordia. I work for Northwestern Mutual. Before that, I used to create insurance. And I think my journey so far became
My name is I master's. I received online in service management. I am currently an autism therapist and in-home autism therapist in the Sunrise program. And this experience has been redemption because in 2007 I was at Concordia for a few years and for personal reasons I had to drop out. So to be back getting my master's degree, it just feels fabulous.
Great. All right, so thank you for that. So we want to talk a little bit about, Josh touched on finding value in your work. Value in it at the time, and then looking back on it, what do you think about it? So whoever would like to kind of start off on that. Yeah, go ahead.
I started off at Walgreens in cosmetics. And my leadership role, and like I said before, I was a Concordia student then, and I was in the nursing program, and so to push me farther into where I am.
I had a job in Wisconsin here, so obviously I had to do with cheese. I worked at a cheese packaging.
Back in my undergraduate program, I was an intern for NC & Associates. They are an insurance company, family owned. And back then, all I had to do was pretty much call other businesses when their commercial insurance was coming for renewal. And I hated that job. And I never thought that I was going to end up in insurance. But I realized the best way actually to get what you want is by helping other people get what they want. And throughout the insurance industry, since we have so many different departments, once you find out what you really want to do, it's the best industry to work for. Back then I thought NSA was too small for me. I always wanted something bigger. I wanted to be personally in touch with the person that I'm talking to, but not a huge organization. Then now I end up at Northwestern Mutual. I think I found my path, what I really wanted to do, and I'm glad that I started my path with the insurance industry because I love every single bit of it.
Right. That's good. Good stuff. So yeah, so things change over time. You realize the value of something kind of after you might not see it at the moment, but afterwards you kind of see new things. So kind of moving forward as you're thinking about moving into the next phases of your career or thinking about what you wanted to evolve into, Josh touched on a little bit about finding that moment where what you love is and what you are good at kind of overlap, and that kind of being the sweet spot for finding your perfect career. Can you talk about how you've negotiated that? You know, I'm really good at this, so I can make a living off of it. I really love this. I'd like to make a living off of it, and what I can do to make a living. Can you talk about that negotiation in your own lives and kind of how you thought through that kind of that tension there?
Well, I'm kind of living it at the present, having just retired 3 months ago at age 52 and deciding that there's got to be more to this than what I'm currently doing. Transitioning to those things that I really enjoy and think that I'm pretty good at. I guess I was okay at the other thing too. But that being said, yeah, there's definitely a lot of self-doubt that goes into the whole thing, especially as you give your resignation 6 months prior to you're actually walking out the door, and then you don't necessarily have exactly what it is that you're going to be doing. So it's a leap of faith. But you know what? God provides, and it certainly has been a good decision. Well, I would definitely encourage all students to follow those passions that they have. God gave you a skill set for a certain reason, and it's up to us to use that skill set to the best of our ability. And so that would be my recommendation: follow those passions.
Mm-hmm. Good. Anyone else?
Yeah, this is Eric. I would echo that in following that, but also not to be afraid to follow that.